Hey, greetings. Fred, Alaska. Thanks for joining me. I'm navigating some trail here. Following some tracks. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going through some vegetation here. Getting over to a spot. Right here looks like a good spot. So, let me find a seat here. Alaska, gotta love it. What I wanted to share with you today, outside of this creepy area, only creepy because of the fog. Excuse me. So what I want to share with you today comes from Joseph. What happened, this happened in 1987. He was young. He was, well, he's my age, so he had to have been 11, 12-ish, 13, somewhere in there. Well, he just gained the trust of his dad to use his dad's snow machine, which was Arctic Cat Jag, right? So he has his own snow machine, which is a Yamaha Bravo, little 340cc. So he, being older now, his dad gave him the responsibility to go get some hare, some spruce chickens, and basically do a little hunting. He takes his two younger brothers with him, 9 and 7. They ride the little Bravo. He rides his dad's Arctic Cat. They're from Bristol Bay. They were west of Portage Creek, west of Sophie's Landing, basically on the Nushagak River. Now, when they went out, they're a good many miles from home. They had brought gas. He had his dad's 8mm rifle and a couple of 22 rifles for the smaller game. The bigger bore rifle was, you never know if a moose is going to attack you kind of thing. So as they're going along, it's wintertime, of course, and we don't get a whole lot of daylight. And the particular time of year, you were getting about 3 hours of actual daylight, and then the rest of the time is dusk for a couple hours, twilight on both sides of that. So they were circling these little islands of black spruce looking for porcupine, and they happened to find one. So they dispatched, they harvest the porcupine. He was teaching his little brothers, you know, shot placement, all that for proper harvesting, you know, because they use the quills for native bead work. And the meat's not bad. It's kind of like really greasy chicken in my opinion. Not a huge fan, but it's not bad. So they're sitting there. He's showing them how to properly stow it without getting quills all in your hands. And so as he's doing so, one of his, the 9-year-old brother says, "There's a fox." Well, he says, "Well, get it." Turns and looks, and he's watching with his own eyes this fox running towards another group not that far away of black spruce. They're like little islands because they're basically driving around on the tundra on the snow machines, and you got little outcroppings which are black spruce mixed in. And so the reason I call them islands is because it's, you know, they're usually oblong shaped, and they're just a patch of black spruce and some willow alders and stuff in there. So his little brother shoots at the fox and it runs off. He missed it. They continue on with the porcupine. He says, "Once we're done with the porcupine, follow me. We'll see if we can find out where that fox is hiding, and maybe you can get another shot on it, or maybe it's after rabbit and we'll see some rabbit. No harm, no foul. You know, live and learn." Well, as he's talking to his second youngest brother, the very youngest brother, who was 7 at the time, says, "What's that over there?" They turn and look, and they don't see anything. Well, at this time, there was a warm front moving into the cold air, so that creates very dense fog. And it was rolling in off of Bristol Bay. So he sees this fog bank coming and realizes, well, in that fog bank, it's going to be hard to see. It's going to be hard to hunt. We should just pack it in, which is a wise choice. So as they're doing this, he was doing a couple last minute things, refueling gas for both machines, just, you know, staying on top of it, being the smart young man his dad raised. And he gets done, he's teaching his brothers what he can, and as they're sitting there and he's discussing what he's doing and why, and, you know, just pointing out certain things to his brothers, that fog bank has moved in on them. Now, they knew the trail, they knew the area, but in really dense fog, it makes it kind of hard to navigate. So keeping that in mind, he was like, well, we'll wait a minute and then we'll just take our time on the trail. We're refueled on gas, we're good. Well, they decide, they fire up the machines, they're gonna go over to a larger little band of black spruce and willows and check for rabbits since they're right there. Now, he knew he had about an hour or so before it started getting dark and had to really be beating feet home. So he figured he'd kill that time looking for rabbit. Well, they get over there and he tells his little brothers, you guys go on your machine, circle around, come back around and meet me and tell me if you see any fresh sign. So yes, you know, they agree. He hears and he listens, and they're kind of going slow, out of sight. And he's guesstimating at this point on the other side of this little island of black spruce. He hears the machine power up and sees them tearing away, not coming back towards him. So he chases after him, cuts him off, gets them to stop, and they're panicked. They're like, there's a hairy man over there in the fog, over there in the trees. It's right over there. We saw it. It was standing right there. So he's like, calm down, calm down. You know, you probably just saw a cluster of trees. Let's go take a look. They wanted no part of it. They were freaking out. They were crying. And he had his dad's 8mm. So, and that's a powerful rifle. He goes over there by himself. He tells them stay put, takes their key so they couldn't be scared and take off without him. Rips back over there. And as he's getting to where he assumes they picked up speed, he notices movement in the black spruce, and he's like, wow, that must be a moose, you know, because it had a brown tinge to it. Now, what he was looking at was the shoulder of this creature, and at his angle it looked like the rump of a moose. So he's like, well, you know, we don't need a moose, but if it's a good moose, maybe I'll harvest a moose. He thought about it for a minute and was like, nah, I probably shouldn't do that. It's getting too close to dark and my little brothers are too small to really pack quarters out. So he opted against it and decided he would flush it out and see how big it was. So he circles around and starts cutting a trail through the black spruce. They were kind of tight, but he was on his dad's new Arctic Cat. He was, you know, tearing through there, making a whole bunch of ruckus. Makes it all the way through, doesn't see the moose again. And as he clears and comes out on the other side, he's looking off to where his brothers are. He goes over there, hands them the key and says it was a moose. It was a moose, and they're pointing back at the trees. On his trail, just inside the tree line that he just came out of, this thing was standing there, swaying back and forth. And as this is going on, the fog is getting thicker. Like, it's getting harder to see. They just see a dark shadow moving back and forth. And he was really trying his best to wrap his mind around what he was actually seeing. And hold on, I'm looking for a place to sit my butt down. Here we go. So he was trying to wrap his mind around what the hell was happening, just approximately not even 50 yards away, just like right over there. He hands the key to his little brother, says, start it up, go to the main trail, and wait right there. I'm gonna use a faster snow machine and try to get a better look at it without getting too close. And they were like, don't do it, don't do it. He wasn't gonna listen to his little brothers. They take off for the trail and he starts cutting back. This thing has been standing there the whole time, just inside the black spruce, kind of swaying back and forth. Fog is thick. He could still see the dark shadow. And as he's getting closer, because he's trying to gain speed to kind of make a sharp U just to get a closer look and still stay up to speed without slowing down. And as he's getting closer and the headlight starts to get closer as well and starts penetrating the fog a little bit, it moves and it starts moving away from him, but just inside the tree line. So he parallels it as it's going through the trees, and he's just kind of looking over to his left watching this thing. And then it really starts moving. It bolted. He said track speed was probably 50 or 60 miles an hour, and this thing just took off, sped past him, cut across, and went back across the open tundra into the fog towards that other little island they just harvested the porcupine at, right? Not all that far away. So he's just intrigued. He needs to go back that same direction to catch up with his brothers. And it dawns on him, his little brothers are that way too. So he immediately, no longer worried about this thing, he wants to get to his little brothers. So he starts hauling ass as fast as he can. And as he passes that little island of trees where they harvested the porcupine, he notices just off into the fog, off to his left still, this thing was still there, just barely. He could just barely make out the shadow of it as it was moving. He couldn't tell how fast because he was moving fast, but he was guesstimating it had to have been moving about the same speed he was. He was a little panic-stricken, worried about his little brothers, hauling ass. And once he gets up and catches trail of his little brothers, he follows their tracks. And he followed them all the way back to where it meets up with the Nushagak River, more towards the mouth. And then they had to go upriver to cross and all that kind of stuff. But that's where he met up with them. Now, when he caught up with them, they were sitting there waiting on him. They were panic-stricken, scared. You know, where's our brother? So they were relieved when they saw him. And when he got up to him, they kept pointing at him, and he goes, yeah, I'm here. He hits the kill switch, and they point and start driving away. He turns around and looks. This thing is in the trail behind him, approximately maybe 60 feet at the most, swaying back and forth, watching him. He said he could hear the gurgled breathing. It wasn't breathing hard. It was just big and breathing. And he said he fired up the snow machine. He was so shaken up he could barely hold the throttle, and he followed his little brothers. And after that he didn't look back for a long time, and when he did, he didn't see anything. So they ended up following the Wood River back on up to Aleknagik through the trail and all that stuff, and they ended up going home from there. But that happened in 1987. He shared this with me a while ago, and I've been waiting for a little bit of fog. It's starting to, you can kind of see it's still a little foggy. It's starting to lift now. But I'm gonna thank Joseph for sharing that with me. Outside of him and his little brothers talking about it every once in a while, we're the first to hear his whole experience, and I thank him for sharing. There's a lot of stories of the little people I'm going to be sharing here in the near future. For every hairy man story I get when I talk to people, 9 times out of 10, the next thing out of their mouth is, I got some little people experiences too. So we'll be delving into that as well. I just want to give you guys a look at where I am. I'm here against this cliff face. It's actually not all that far from what would be considered civilization. This here, I film here a couple times from right up top here, and that's the Matanuska River there. But I figured I'd give you guys a different perspective of what it looks like from down here looking up. Where was it? There was the squirrel came down this tree, I do believe. Anyway, it's Fred in Alaska. Thanks for joining me. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.